gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right. Boom.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another installment of our chicken coop build series. I think we're up to part 9 now. So today I'm going to try and keep the initiative and momentum moving forward, and finally I'm going to work on those inside walls. That's the first thing on my list today. So on top of that, still, got to frame out the nesting box here. That's going to be a bit of work. And getting the pieces in there, I got a Craig tool, Craig jig, for helping to get that in a little bit better the way that I'm planning on doing it. So on top of that, I've also figured out that I got a 6-inch overhang on the roof on the sides, but as far as the length goes, I was hoping that an 8-foot total length was going to give me at least a 2x4's width out past the end of the base. But the more I look at it, and now with the plywood sheeting on, taking away another inch, my 3 inches of overhang total between the front and the back have now reduced to 2. So that's only an inch overhang on the front and back. So as a result, I'm going to end up building on some eaves, and instead of doing one full length plywood sheet of 8 foot in length, I'm going to have to suck it up and do 2 separate sheets to get the full length, because I'm going to be adding on about an extra foot almost in total length to get those 6-inch overhangs on the front and back. So it's not what I planned on, but it's exactly the way this thing has been going. Just adapt as we go, and I do want it done right, so I'm not going to go halfways on it and have these little 1-inch overhangs on front and back and make it look odd, when all it takes is frame up some extra eaves. A little bit of extra work, But that's what we're going to do. That probably won't be today. Today is going to be plywood, and if I get the 4 walls sawed out quick enough on the inside, I think I'll be ready to actually begin some vapor barrier and insulation. And I think that would be a nice task to have done before the end of today. Now as far as plywood goes, I'm getting low on my 1.5-inch deck screws, and I'm kind of waiting to have a bunch of materials to get in one trip before I go out to Home Depot. Just given the current situation of things, I don't want to be making multiple trips, So I'm going to kind of use up what I got here before I got to make another stock run, which I will have to make. There's no getting around that. But when I do make that trip, hopefully it'll be one of my last for actually completing the project. So there we go, that's my ramble done. Let's get to work. Let's get on that interior wall plywood, get that sawed out and shaped out, and we'll do that as we go. One other consideration that I'm doing as well is I'm not going to do all 4 walls separately right off the hop. I'm going to do the 2 side walls, because being that 1/2-inch plywood on either side, when it's done, the 2 end walls are going to end up having an inch less space to accommodate, right? So the 2 sides of those are going to be a 1/2 inch shorter. So I already got that one figured out in the brain, accommodate for that width. Try to nip that in the bud before we get there. So yeah, alright, I'm going to measure out the side walls and make some cuts and get to it. Alright, let's do it. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this side wall. $85 3/4 there. I'm just going to measure the header as well. So close to 86. So we'll say like 85 3/4. I think that'll be enough playroom to work with. Any kind of a gap that we're left with is probably going to be filled up with vapor barrier and then the end walls anyway. So 85 3/4 in length, and I think we should be what, about 44 high? 44 high. 44. And one more time for good measure. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Good stuff. 85 3/4, 44 high. So 85 3/4 long. Double check the measurements here. Good stuff. Alright, so setting up for the next cut, 44 inches high. What we're looking for. Find a straight edge among all this. This one's about as good as it gets. Still not great by any means. Alright, so now that we got that right interior wall finished and cut, we'll get that in there so I can trace out that chicken door. So far so good. Alright, that should be good. So I'll trace out the chicken door now. And let's get that cut out. And there we go, finally some progress on the inside walls. So this is the right wall inside sheet done. So now we'll just lay that aside and we'll use that after we vapor barrier and insulate that side. So with that said, let's keep going. Let's do the left wall now. Alright, so I've gone ahead and measured the other wall, and again it's going to be 85 3/4 by 44. We'll get those measurements knocked out. I don't know about you guys, but doesn't this thing look like an enemy out of like Galga? Or definitely like a skull. Or Judge Dredd's helmet. Anything along those lines. Minecraft head. Somewhat. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Alright, so that's 2 walls done for the interior. So we got the 2 end walls to do on the inside. And there's only going to be a little bit of trouble maybe with that. And that is I'm down to 1 full sheet of plywood. And you know, we're going up, say, 4.5 feet high, thereabouts. So I don't know if we'll be able to do it in 2 complete sheets or if I'll have to patch some together. I don't want to be too wasteful when it comes to plywood just because it's so expensive for one. And it is just the interior wall, so it's not as big a deal as the outside as far as weatherproofing and minimizing gaps, you know what I mean? But when it comes down to it, I could use full sheets because I'm going to use a lot of my scrap material there now for doing the outside of the nesting box, say, a lid for the nesting box, and a few other little odds and ends like a divider between the nesting boxes as well as the 2 storage compartments on the side. So it's not that I'm going to waste a whole lot of wood, and I'm sure I'll enjoy a nice fire afterwards if I do have some left over, along with all the old blocking and everything that's come off the ends of the 2x4s. So I think I will still do the rear wall and get that done at least because it's one of the more complex ones. It'd be nice to have it out of the way, and there's really not much any other reason other than with that 6-inch clean out at the bottom, that's 6 inches less plywood in length that I need to have for that inside wall, and it may end up providing me with an opportunity to have a long enough piece to do somewhere else along the way. So yeah, with that said, I'm going to get in and we'll measure up the rear wall and start getting that traced out and cut and go from there. Alright, so when it comes to this rear wall, I'm going to measure from the top of the clean out door, and I'm going to measure all the way to the top of the peak, because I want plywood to encompass all this 2x4 here as well. Alright, so I'm just going to measure to the top, and then I'll be able to trim out the size for this 2x4 ridge beam when I got the plywood cut to dimensions, okay? And then I'll get that in place, trace out the window, trace out the vent, and that piece should be good to go. So let's get that measured. So from the clean out door all the way to the peak is 52.5 inches. So 52.5 high, and for width I'm going to be doing 41.25, but again we're going to have that 1/2 inch of ply on both sides, so it's going to be 40.25. So we'll double check our measurements again. So we'll do 40.25, and this was 52 high, right? No, 52.5. 52.5 high. So I got those marked on my beam, and I can look back to that at any point in time. And yeah, so let's get cutting. I'm going to go through my bits of scrap and just see if I actually got anything that matches these dimensions before I get into a full sheet. I don't think I do, but anything's possible. So as I suspected, I don't have any other pieces large enough for that rear wall, so I'm going to go get a full sheet. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the height measurement, which was 52.5. Get that marked out. Alright, so next is 40.25. Alright, so to accommodate the ridge board, so I'm going to measure across, so we got 40.25. So half of that's going to be 20.125. So we'll mark our midpoint, which is 20.125. Okay. Take our speed square, line up to that, draw our midpoint. From there, we're going to have 1.5 ridge board in here, right? So we're going to take half of an 1.5, it'll be 3/4. So line up on 3/4, make a mark there, and then we'll do 3/4 on this side, make a mark there. So that's the width of our ridge board. And since I got my speed square on here, I can just go to 3.5, do the depth of it as well. Alright, and this one is already beyond 3.5. So join the two of these. Like so. Alright, so this should be our ridge board spot. So I'm just going to haul this out to sawing area. And we'll go ahead and saw this out. So instead of just cracking that off, I don't have a little skill saw or a plunge saw to get in here. So I'm just going to make a bunch of cuts in through it, and then I'll probably do a little planing method with the skill saw, chipping those out. We'll see how that goes. Alright, so we just got a little bit left there, and we'll just keep at it. not too shabby. That's done. So now that we got that cut complete, we'll get our board inside and we'll go in and check our fitment as well as trace out the rafters. Tack that in place. And it looks like we got a good 1/2 inch on both sides, which is excellent. Yep. Spot on. Very nice. So I'm just going to tack the top of this. Actually, I probably don't even need to. I'll just go ahead and trace it. I almost forgot. I'm going to trace out the window and the vent. So, I will put a tack in the top of this after all. Alright, so now that we got everything traced out, we'll cut out our window and our vent as well as our roof line. Alright, so that is our first end wall finished. So we'll take this and lay it aside. Alright, so now we got 3 of the interior walls complete and ready to go. That 4th wall, we're not going to be able to do that today because I don't have the plywood for it. But we're kind of at this crossroads of time now where I say, would I start the next stage or would I call it, done for today in the interest of waiting to have that plywood or have another new day to start something totally fresh. So what I'm deciding to do is I'm going to get some insulation put into the wall cavities and then we'll see where we are at that point in time, because when I do vapor barrier, I like to be pretty precise with it. I like to get the acousto-seal in all the gaps and seal everything down nicely and airtight. So I don't want to just kind of be rushing through it, getting close to supper time right now and end up doing, a half job on it that I'd rather would have spent a whole day doing it properly. But to save on the vapor barrier time, at least I can take the insulation, cut those small blocks and get them into little nooks and crannies and have the insulation side of things done. I think that'll save me time when it comes to the vapor barrier. So for that reason, I think we're going to set that limit on where we're going to finish today. After I do the insulation, we're going to call it a day at that point in time. But that means we're not done yet, so let's get at the insulation. Well, there you have it. Insulation is in and I am cooked. So I'm glad that we said we were going to end it here before we even started the insulation. So, anyways, to finish off today, I'm going to take the camera, give you a quick little look inside at my insulation job, and then we'll sign out and carry off from there. Alright, so going in from the front door. Everything's all covered in all right. Fix a little corner here, fluff it out to the edge. So everything is in there pretty well, fluffed into every corner. So it wasn't too bad. Like I say, a couple of spots like here where I needed a few multiple pieces of scrap just to fill it in. Not a big deal. Still covered in well. And down here is another spot where I used up some scraps. And over here as well. Not optimal, but you know what? It's a chicken coop. At the end of the day, it's still a chicken coop. And this is way above and beyond the usual for a chicken coop. Alright, so I'll just go around to the other side and I'll show you the front wall from, let's show you through the window. There's the front wall. Again, used a few pieces up here to fill that in. Alright, so everything is stuffed in just lightly. Right, no extreme squeezing or crushing everything into place. You know, a few spots when using scraps and stuff like that is you just try to line them up as best you can, and the vapor barrier will seal the air from getting inside, but the main insulation can go in just like so without issue. There you go, insulation is done. The whole thing, including the base, took one bag of standard Pink Panther R12 insulation. As for when it comes time to do the roof, I got a stack, I'll show you, of old scraps of rigid foam, and I'm just going to use that in different places. But I'm going to be using it first in the nesting box. So I actually still have a full sheet of that outdoors, which is in good shape, so I'll be able to cut some long pieces to do the nesting box. Alright, so yeah, there we go. Insulated. Next step is vapor barrier, and then we'll get back to doing some more framing of the nesting box, rafters, and eaves. Alright, so still lots to do. Lots to do. And there you have it, guys and girls. Another day in the shed complete. We've come to a conclusion for this session. So that is, well, part 9 of this build complete. By the time we finish this, you know what, we could be up into part 15 for all I know. Seems like there's always something that comes up that can be improved upon or added on. So I'm not going to put you know, an exclusive deadline or number of parts to this series, because I want it done right, and I'm going to keep going until it's done right. And hopefully you guys will continue to follow along and join me with this. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, leave a comment on what you think so far. Seen a couple of comments so far, very nice, and I thank you for that, and it helps keep me motivated to keep putting this content out there. But I guarantee you my content will continue until at least this thing is finished. So you got no worries there, you will see the conclusion of this chicken coop. Alright, so with that said, I hope you guys are happy, hope you're healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.